Hello, I'm Greg Hrutkay of Hrutkay Mods, and do you remember this computer right here? Oops, sorry, 1 second. That's better. Yes, my iMac G3 Blueberry Revision D that was complete in box that Michael Stanhope went and picked up for me. And in honor of the 25th anniversary of the iMac that happened earlier this week, we are going to be upgrading this system with the Sonnet Harmoni G3 500, which also adds FireWire ports. I've had this card longer than Sean from Action Retro has, and Sean actually beat me to the punch. Thanks, Sean. But no hard feelings, of course, because you beat me to the punch. This system will be upgraded with this 500 megahertz G3 with FireWire support on this card. We will also be upgrading the RAM to 512 megabytes thanks to the RAM that's in my G3 Wall Street, which just made a really nasty popping noise. Yee. And we'll also be upgrading the hard drive to an 80 gig. And with this 80 gig, my goal is to run Tiger and OS 9.2 on this system. So let's go. I forgot one thing. Welcome to episode 1 of season 5 of the PowerPC series. How did I forget that? Anyway, let's go. Alright, so before we tear it apart, I believe we have to flash it first so it can accept the new G3. Right here we have my Harmony G3, which adds the FireWire port and everything. Pretty neat. This is an unopened box. The only time it has been opened was by me just to verify it was all in here. So let's open it up. It's all brand new on the inside. If it will stay open, stay open, stay open. Here's the G3 and the FireWire extension itself, still in their original unopened packages. Here is the adapter plate. The adapter wires, I don't know what they're actually for. We'll have to figure that out. It's been a while since I've watched Sean's video. Read me first. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so yes, we do have to flash it first. Here's the instructions on how to install it, which will come in handy. And here is the installer. So let's start this thing up. Alright, so we're going to have to do this as a two-part thing because then I have to upgrade the hard drive. Everything might be in ROM now. I'm not even sure. Are we supposed to unplug it to do this? I'd assume we are. So yeah, let me read this real quick and make sure I'm doing everything right. If you intend to perform hardware upgrades on your iMac, we recommend that you complete the installation of the Harmony first and then install the remaining upgrades. So we'll have to leave this thing in pieces just to make sure it works. Yeah. Yes. I never noticed this has the original packaging still on the bottom foot. It's kind of cool. Let's peel that off and stick it in the box. Maybe. Now it's ripping. Just come on. There we go. So it's got a nice dead spider in it. That's nice. Old side plate, new side plate. This room's for the mezzanine slot if you've got a revision A or B. We don't have that, sadly. Here, my Bondi blue is currently still broken from the last video I filmed on it. I never got around to fixing it. And I think this one could actually use this card more anyway. So, set that to the side. So we've got everything installed. I've got a feeling this isn't going to work with a dead battery. And I really should pop it out, but we don't need to yet. Let's see if it tries to flash itself. I don't think it will. And in that case, I'll have to put the old card back in and retry it again while it's plugged in, which is not going to be pretty. Ugh. Hey, it's flashing. Woo! It bonged! I don't know what that means. There we go. Yeah, reset the clock. Well, it doesn't really matter because it's never been right. It's quicker. It's showing all the RAM. Here we go. Maxed RAM. PowerPC G3 500 megahertz. Now here's the plan here. I'm not going to film this part. I'm going to upgrade the hard drive, finish cleaning the system out, and I'll also install 9.2.2, and then we'll attempt to do something like installing tires, which should be interesting. We're just going to finish buttoning this thing up, and then we'll come back and we'll see you guys in a bit. All right, so I'm going to spare you guys from watching me install OS 9.2.2 like 50 times, because every time I try to get X Post Facto to work and I mess up the helper drive, for some reason I can't fix it. But I think I finally worked all the bugs out. And I spent the first 2 hours trying to install anything on this because I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't read disks. It would read pressed disks, but it wouldn't read burned disks. And I figured out that it was because the lens was dirty. I never thought about the fact it's 24 years old. It probably never been cleaned. Yeah. So once I cleaned the lens, my disks worked and I could install things. But yeah, we are currently in 9.2.2 as we speak. If we go over to Apple System Profiler, we can see We have 512 megs of RAM and the 500 megahertz G3. If we go to device and volumes, we actually have FireWire. And this is actually really native FireWire. Since it's built into the CPU, the system treats it as real native FireWire. In fact, this has better FireWire than the iMac G3 Blue and White. You can actually boot from this FireWire, and I think it's actually even quicker than the FireWire that's in that system, because I believe it was an early version that ran at like 200 megabytes instead of 400. It's slower and it isn't as reliable as this one. In fact, I managed to get this system to boot Tiger with this optical drive right here and actually start installing it. But I think the controller board on my optical drive is going out because I've had this problem in the past on many different systems. It just eventually stops running. It would just spin down the disk and stop reading. So I managed to actually get it all the way booted up into Tiger, and I can show you real quick right here. You've got to be kidding me. It's actually trying to install it from FireWire. No, that's awesome. It actually is booting from the FireWire drive. It stopped midway through the load. If you just unplug it and plug it in really quick, the drive spins right back up and it starts working like a normal FireWire drive. So let's see if this installs quicker. That was me and the Tiger installer. It was actually running off that drive, which was pretty neat until the drive stopped spinning, which means now I have to install Tiger with CDs because I can't install it from a DVD because this is a CD-ROM. So we're going to do that right now for my 73rd time. And it is so crazy, I've actually managed to cut myself again, and I have no clue how. You gotta love me and my Hrutkay mods issues here. But anyway, let's open up open up here. Install from CD, install. It should do it this time. Install. All right, so it's booting in the Tiger installer. We will see you guys in Tiger. Okay, and welcome to Panther. Yeah, we were installing Tiger, weren't we? Long story on that, and we'll briefly go over that. Yeah, I found out after spending about 20 hours trying to install Tiger and making it work, which will probably work with the original card right there, but won't work with the Harmony card more than likely. I don't know if it would or not. It's a 50-50 crapshoot there. But here's the problem. This is a New World ROM Mac, and all the installers and the way it boots, it treats like it is an Old World ROM Mac, which translates into all operating systems you want to run on it need to be in the first 8 gigabytes of the hard drive. So this wouldn't be a problem if we kept the original hard drive right there in it. But since this is an 80 gig hard drive, it wasn't until a few hours ago, around, let's see here, 2 a.m. maybe, that I finally realized that no matter what I do, Tiger's not going to install normally. And what bothers me is with my Wall Street, it's still installed fine, and you had these dedicated drives there, and they work on the Wall Street. Everything works fine. On this thing, though, nothing works fine. In fact, it was a nightmare, and I finally broke down and just put Panther on it. Now, I could still install Tiger. In fact, I probably will update this video, and I might just go back to the original hard drive, which kind of sucks, but yeah. But we're running Panther now, fully updated, and looking into Panther and stuff, I've learned a few things about how the Mac treats this card. So if we go over to System Profiler, let's see here, PCI AGP cards. If we look in here, it is treating the FireWire as being plugged into the mezzanine, and of course the Revision D doesn't have a mezzanine. So somehow it is tricking it into thinking it is a mezzanine slot card when it's actually built into the CPU. Pretty weird, but cool. FireWire, we have my DVD-RW drive installed, and it actually does work if we put in a drive, some kind of disk in the drive. Let's see here, find something DVD-wise. Here's a DVD of Tiger. Of course, this drive right here is a CD drive. So, we put in Tiger, it should load it right up on the desktop. And if you're wondering why these two drives are here, it's because I wasn't about to format the drive for the 53rd time. So now I have 9.22 and Panther on this drive, and 9.22 and Panther on these two drives. And I can't boot into these two. Yeah, Apple designed that very well, but as we can see here, the DVD loaded up, and it sees it as an installed DVD. So, FireWire works perfectly. The last thing I want to do, and I really wanted to do this on Tiger so we could use modern-day operating systems, a modern-day browser, but I couldn't. So we will use the original Safari that came with Panther, which is really outdated now and won't load anything, and is also set up for the wrong resolution. Oh, that's nice. Let's shrink that down. And the reason why I have this on such a small resolution is because my camera does not do the refresh rate very well. As you can see, the flickering. This is the closest I can get to the proper one. But we can open up Frog Find, and it just works. If we go and search, now you may be wondering how I am on Frog Find right now when there's no built-in Wi-Fi on this thing. It's because I'm using an Airport Express, which is in bridge mode. And the cool thing is, this is a modified one. I actually modified for my car. It's USB powered, which means the iMac is actually powering the Airport Express. We may do a video on that sometime. But if we look here, Frog Find works. Everything looks good on here. So, I mean, you can't pull a whole lot up on here. Other than text related, more or less. But I am curious what happens if I go click. It pulls up the YouTube, but of course it's just literally the text. Open up Facebook. Here's my Facebook page. It's about all you can do with it. We need Tiger on this, so we will be putting Tiger on this in the future. But right now, it's fully updated, at least in Panther. But it's fully upgraded, and everything works. I couldn't leave you guys hanging, and I needed to try installing Tiger. In fact, I installed it natively with no helpers. And it's in a boot loop. And that's all because that 50-50 crapshoot where the FireWire on this card isn't compatible with Tiger for some reason. And it's probably because the mezzanine slot thing that we talked about earlier. I don't think Tiger has drivers for it. So some cards probably implemented this differently than, well, this card does. So I am going to try to attempt to fix this real quick just to get Tiger to boot. And welcome to Vanilla Tiger. We're already getting software updates in the background. That's impressive. But yeah, welcome to Vanilla Tiger. We'll update it real quick, and then we'll talk about how I got this to work, and talk about if I feel like this was a success or not, and we'll play around with it a bit. All right, so let's talk about some scenarios here on how you set up a system when you don't feel like taking the whole thing apart again after you've upgraded it with the FireWire compatible CPU card and stuff. Yeah, that was fun. So basically, on this system, I worked from, I think it was late Thursday night, all the way to what is now about 2:30 Monday morning on this system, making it work. I committed so many hours into this system. It's unreal. I've learned so much about this system. For instance, even though it's treated like an old boot ROM system, it's because the IDE controller in it. It can only see the boot files in the first 8 gigs of the partition because it was only designed for that. So you have to install OS 9 and Tiger on the same partition, which causes some problems also, but we'll get to that. So let's say you want to upgrade to Tiger on this system. FireWire, of course, works fine on Panther. It doesn't in Tiger, at least with this card. Some of them may work with it, some won't. Okay, so first you need to install OS 9. And then you need a modified CD install because, of course, all these systems came with CD drives. A modified CD install that has the bad machines removed from this, so it will allow you to natively install this. So it's a quick modification, and you burn the disk. You only need to burn the first disk with that modification on it. And then you boot it into Tiger's installer. Tiger's installer works fine, except it runs at about 1/5 the speed Panther does because the installer is implementing the FireWire drivers. So the install's really, really, really painfully slow. Yeah, like really painfully slow. And when you finally get to disk 2, the computer, of course, restarts. When the computer restarts, it gets it stuck into a boot loop. And because you have got OS 9 and Tiger on the same partition, you can't just do a param reset to boot it into Classic. So you need your OS 9 disk. You swap out the first disk from the Tiger install. You put that disk in here, restart the computer, holding the C key until it starts booting into the OS 9 disk. OS 9 disks, of course, are live CDs. It's got the complete operating system on it, and there's no write permissions or anything. It will just delete whatever you want to delete. So you boot into this, you find the FireWire files in System Extensions folder, you delete those. In fact, I saved mine and put them in a separate folder. Okay, but you delete them from the install. Then you shut the system down. You start the system back up, pop the first disk back in really fast. It will start booting back in OS 10 mode. It will boot right back up into the installer. It will ask for disk 2. You put in disk 2. It finishes everything up, or it will add the extra disks if you decided to install more. But I wouldn't recommend that for Tiger if you're running it all on an 8 gigabyte partition. But still, it goes through all that process, and then you have vanilla Tiger or whatever version you just installed. Then when you update to 10.4.11, it will actually boot, believe it or not, but it will be extremely slow and eventually freeze. I never got it to get past the pinwheel of death after it got onto the desktop. And I figured out that 10.4.11 reinstalls some of the FireWire drivers. So then you've got to boot back into the OS 9 disk, remove the FireWire drivers again, and then it boots up fine and works. So, yeah. Well, that's a quick scenario. If you're doing this on your system and you've got the same card and it's not working, that's how you fix it. Now let's get back to showing you Tiger real quick, and I'll tell you if this was actually what I would consider a success or not. So let's go. So first let's go over to about this Mac. We are running 10.411. Open up System Profiler. Now that we have all the FireWire drivers out, it's not going to see the FireWire. Everything's working here. As we can see, there's the hard drive. There's the memory. There's the graphics card and all that stuff. And of course, USB still works too. So how I set this thing up here is we have the boot drive, which has the operating systems on it. And we also have a data drive for 9.2.2 and a Tiger data drive. This way I don't fill up the boot drive here. So if we open up, for instance, Tiger data here, we have all the extra files that we need here. Like these are the FireWire drivers that I pulled out of Tiger when it was just 10.4. Here's the 0.11 drivers. And then here's the applications folder where I'm storing stuff like the modern day browsers. So right now, the newest browser right now was just updated in 2023, and it's the Interweb PPC browser, which is based off the last version of 10.4 Fox, which is right here. Now this version right here is universal binary now. It works with the G3, G4, and G5. The older version still has separate binaries, and it wasn't updated until just, I think, like in 2022 and late 2022. So the newest version and the second newest version are still pretty new. But I also still have the original 10.4 Fox on here. This is the last version, which was updated in October of 21, just in case. But we'll open up Interweb, and we'll show you that it's got a modern day browser, which is quite convenient. Now, of course, don't expect this to be a speed demon. This computer is from early 1999, based on hardware from 1998. Okay? And it's also got an upgrade card from 2001, and we're in 2023. This is a G3. So it's not going to be the world's fastest, but they actually load it pretty quick. So we could go to a modern day website, go to Facebook, and you can load the modern day Facebook. This is the mobile version, of course, but it works. You can still browse Facebook and do whatever you need to. And we could also just go to Google. And this isn't being sped up or anything. This is actually the speed it's loading. We can search me, like we did, if I can spell my own name right. We can search me like we did in FrogFind, and it will load everything up. Now, I'm not going to open up YouTube. Trust me, no, you don't want to do that, especially on G3, because even if it does open, it will probably lock off the whole system. But hey, it's got a modern day browser that actually works, which is really, really awesome. So that comes to the conclusion here, and we'll actually film that right here. Okay, so in conclusion, is it actually win to run Tiger on this even without FireWire support? I would say yes, for one main reason. It's as close to a modern day operating system as you can get without having to fool with Linux or anything like that, which this thing probably wouldn't like in the first place. And you got to consider it this way. You can have 100% FireWire support in OS 9 and Panther and use an operating system, aka Panther, that had its last major update in like 2005. People stopped developing more or less for it after that because Tiger was so much better and it ran on almost everything that supported Panther. So they just started developing for Tiger. They haven't stopped developing for Tiger. As we can see, we've got a modern day browser where with Panther we had to use the built-in Safari, and we could even use Classilla, but Classilla hasn't been updated or supported since 2021. So it's just not worth it. And you're using all those OS 9 APIs because it's got to run classic. Tiger is a win. Because you got to think of it this way. If you were going to take this system right here with a stock CPU and run Tiger, it would just work. Now, if you upgrade it with this card here and the FireWire doesn't work, just take out the drivers, because this system didn't originally come with FireWire anyway. You're missing a whole lot. Plus, you've got OS 9, which still has 100% FireWire support. So if you'd have to run like a FireWire optical drive or something, just boot it into OS 9. I call this a win. This is as modern as you can get with a G3 and support modern day stuff. They still make, like I said, apps for Tiger, custom ones for PowerPC. They still make browsers for Tiger, all this stuff that they don't for Panther. In fact, Apple's update servers are still live. So if you install a fresh install of Tiger, you can get all the updates just straight from the download in software update. So in the end, Tiger is actually a win. Sure, we lost FireWire support, but it didn't have it in the first place until it was upgraded. So, yeah. So yeah, guys, I didn't want to leave it on a cliffhanger running Panther because I wanted to run Tiger on this thing. So I've spent literally hours, like I said earlier, trying to make this thing work right. In fact, I spent literally, I was up probably at one stretch over 32 hours working on this because I was determined to get it to work. So this was a labor of love, and I was really close to breaking the thing because I was getting very mad. But I didn't. It's still in one piece. I only had to take it apart 50 times or something like that. And now I can take one of these things, at least the bottom half, apart in less than a minute. Yeah, so skill set there. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the actual wrap-up. And yeah, once again, this has been a Hrutkay Mods video. See ya. I gotta leave room for you to squeeze in here.
Yeah, I'm about to come in like a wrecking ball, Greg.
And just don't unplug it or drop it. You don't have to pick it up until we do this. Because I can stand there in one spot for a minute with no problem. Okay? Plus you have to move this box first before you move it anyway. Alright? So don't cough or anything while I'm doing this. Hello, I'm Greg Hrutkay of Hrutkay Mods, and do you remember this computer right here? Oops, sorry, 1 second. Please stop hitting me! That's better.